Ever since Zorga was revealed to be returning for Divines, I've been super excited to see it finally revealed. Unfortunately, it took until set 2, but hey, we're finally here. So I want to just discuss and give my first impressions of the new cards for it, because Zorga is one of my favorite decks from this second reboot. And thankfully, this ride line and all the support cards really, as a collective, don't disappoint. So first off, we got the star. It's just a standard starter, but I do find it interesting that it's departing from the original ride line of Dream, Nibbling, Rancor Chain, and Black Tear. So I was trying to do something new, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy that they're doing that. It gives some more uniqueness to this ride line overall. So it just kind of got this cool squid looking thing here, kind of standard for all the Zorga stuff. But then we get the grade 1, this fishing guy here, so Abyss Fishing. I was very curious to see what this deck, what the ride line would end up doing, because it's really hard to beat Black Tear's Husk Dragon and Rancor Chain. At least Rancor Chain as the grade 1. Being able to draw 2, especially if your deck doesn't mind running orders, is so strong. And honestly, the results didn't really surprise me, considering the decks that I run, the Stoicheia decks that I play that end up not running Rancor Chain, end up going this route of just providing the deck more specific utility that it really, that draw 2, it just beats draw 2 pretty much in the context of the deck itself. So Abyss Fishing here, when rode upon by Split the Preordained, cost Soul Blast 1, look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 unit card and 1 normal order from among them. Reveal them, put the normal order into your hand, and discard the revealed unit card and shuffle your deck. So a bit slower, but at the same time is just it sets up both a normal order in hand for your turn 2 to be able to play, as well as setting up your drop zone with your roaming prison dragons. And a top 7 search is really hard to beat in terms of just that consistency there. So there are still some arguments for, I think, Rancor Chain over this card, because the draw 2 immediately is really strong, and there are definitely some cards you want to get to hand, but also with this new build, well, even the old Zorga builds, just being able to mill those the roaming prison dragons is really strong, and this card just does it a bit better. Now, Zorga had other ways to do it, so that's a big question here, is how much do you value just getting the cards to hand to then start milling your pieces versus just having your ride line do it for you? And that will take some experimentation, but overall, I like this option a lot. I think it is a good way to introduce a new ride line to compete with a ride line that is already very, very strong. Next up, we've got Split the Preordained, a little sea serpent here, which looks awesome. And it has the ability that auto, when this unit is rode upon by a unit with Zorga in its card name and Divine skill, choose up to 1 normal order from your drop and put it into your hand. So this is pretty much a delayed Black Tear's Husk Dragon for specifically the Zorga, the Fated one Zorga. And that's fine. Just being able to set up an order for your first grade 3 turn is awesome. Pretty much this ride line, make sure you got an order for your turn 2 so you can be aggressive, and turn 3 so you can just actualize your game plan, which is pretty standard. And I do like that synergy. That's something that Rancor Chain and Black Tear's Husk Dragon doesn't really have. Either you hold the order for your Zorga turn, or you play it to rush on turn 2. So this one really feels like it's pushing more towards you being able to rush in the early game, kind of like what we saw in the latest anime episode. It also has another ability that on Rearguard Circle, if you play an order this turn, gains 5k. Same thing as Black Tear's Husk Dragon. I don't think it's much to write home about. We got better cards here, but it's nice if it's ever relevant. So then finally, we've got the card I've been waiting for, Fated one of Taboo, Zorga Nadir. So this one, unlike all the other Divine skill users, has 3 abilities. Of course, that makes sense of the Alchemagic ability. So that first one is the Alchemagic one, but instead of having to bind a order from drop, it says when you would play a normal order, you can choose a normal order with a different card name from your bind zone and Alchemagic. So it does have to be different named, which I think is fine, but it's from the bind zone. So now you're really wanting to set that bind zone early, at least what this effect suggests. And from there, you don't have to worry about necessarily keeping with orders and drop. You just need to keep with the orders in hand, and you can just toolbox through your orders bound, which is pretty cool. I think this is a really neat direction to take Zorga, and really does feel like it's pushing Zorga more into that aggressive realm where you want to get your orders bound early and just kind of get some utility off of that. And then it's got its second skill here, which is Active Vanguard Circle. Once per turn, cost Energy Blast to bind a normal order from drop. So hey, easy way to set up that normal order in the bind zone. Choose up to 2 cards from your drop, call them to Rearguard Circle, and they get power plus 5,000 till end of turn for each normal order with a different card name in your bind zone. At the end of turn, retire those units. That's a really cool skill. You just get to spawn out a board really effectively. Like Soul Energy Blast 2, bind a normal order. Honestly, that normal order might be the hardest thing, is just to make sure that you have a continuous supply. Mainly, I don't think the drop zone is going to be too much issue, because when you play an order from hand, it goes to drop. but I think more so just make sure you have an order in hand, and sometimes if you want to recur an order from drop to hand, that's where this can come to some issue. But being able to just spawn 2 out is huge board presence, just help you make better numbers. We know the roaming prison dragons can hit good crits, and we just need to make sure it can hit great numbers. And this card, just be able to spawn, say, 2 philanders, that already can do it very effectively, as long as you got the 10 cards in drop, of course. And then just to give even more power, that's crazy. So, and it's for each different named normal order in your bind zone. That can stack up really, really quick if you are playing this deck effectively. At least I would expect so. It might even become even more effective as we get more support cards as well. So that's actually pretty scary. This, I know Zorga Mask is known because it gives the 10k to the front row, which is super effective, but this might scale even quicker than that, which is kind of crazy to think. Now, as for its Divine skill, Auto Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, costs Soul Blast 1, choose a column and stand all your rear guards in that column. At the end of turn, retire those units. I realize I completely forgot to mention the whole end of turn retire those units part of the effect. That doesn't, in my opinion, won't matter. Like, you just want to keep spamming the skill turn after turn, so. And also, does it matter if it retires at the end of turn if you win the game anyway? No, so I think that's fine. As for this Divine skill, restand. This is the best restand Zorga has gotten. And it's only once per game, but again, with crit pressure, just try to win it on that turn. Boom, easy. Like I'm sure it's going to be a bit more difficult to line up than it sounds, but still, that is massive. And you're restanding a column, which means you're swinging essentially for, I mean, Zorga without a crit, but you got the drive checks to pressure the crit. And if you have 2 roaming prison dragons, you're swinging 3 times with them. That sounds really, really strong. And I can't think of any other decks that can get guaranteed crit restand as of right now. Maybe there's some combo that you can do to get it, but nothing as straightforward as this Zorga Nadir is looking. And that really excites me. That this card looks to be very strong in my opinion, and definitely pushing Zorga to more an aggressive playstyle. That's the big takeaway from it. I feel like you could grind out games with old Zorga. That's what I have done. Now, the most recent Zorga Mask felt like it was trying to play a bit quicker, but which also made sense for the meta because I don't think it could outgrind Jadruled Ignis, but this one really feels like it's pushing it in that direction, which I'm fine with. That's interesting. I did like the grindier Zorga plays, but at the same time, I can understand why either it's difficult to make it good, or if it's good enough to outgrind the game currently, that could be a bit problematic. And how this skill works makes me wonder that once you get your first chance to use a Divine skill, you just go ahead and use it, and then maybe switch over to Zorga Masks to just set up the big power columns and be able to more easily recur orders to hand. That could be interesting. I don't know how realistic it is. You'd probably need the card that can reset all the orders into drop zone to make it worthwhile with how much this deck seems to want to bind orders. And I'm a bit curious because I know I mentioned that this card might be able to scale in power a bit quicker with that ability to give 5k to the called units for each normal order of the different card name in your bind zone. But at the same time, just being able to get the utility to recur back orders might, and the power gain might not beat out that utility. So that'll take some testing, but that's exciting that we have possibilities like that in this deck here. But of course, we got some new orders for Zorga as well. We got Fill the Skies, O Brand of Corpses. This is a really cool artwork. So a grade 3 order that says you would play this if you have Vanguard Zorga in its card name and Divine skill. So it's only locked into this Zorga. Bit disappointing. I generally like when orders can be used past just a single deck. I can understand why they probably want to lock it with some of these skills to make them more powerful and more unique to Zorga, but I did really like that about the OG Zorga, that a ton of the orders for it also worked in other decks. But what does this do? Choose your Vanguard, and it gets continuous Vanguard Circle. All your rear guards placed from the drop this turn get power plus 5,000 until end of turn. This is just even more power. And to combine this with an order that also generates you advantage, that is pretty, I shouldn't say pretty good, that is very good. That if you're just calling 2 off a Zorga skill, then 2 roaming prison dragons, that's plus 10k to both the columns, which is comparable. Well, yeah, that you can't use Grief, Despair, Rejection, so which would give you a bit more power, but also this doesn't cost a counterblast. So overall, this seems very, very strong and a powerful order to combine just to hit massive numbers. I don't know if it'll be necessary, and the more utility-based orders might be a bit better than this one, but a great option nonetheless to try out. I could see this card being run for sure, especially since the other power gain card, the Clouded Miasma, I don't know how necessary that will be in this upcoming build of Zorga, just because you're already building a board with Zorga Nadir and then the 2 roaming prison dragons ideally. Next up, we got a rare order, Clutch of Grudge Toxin. Another cool artwork just to giant massive sea monster just over the ship, just destroying everything. That's so cool. I love these artworks. But again, this card can only be played if you have a Vanguard with Zorga and the Divine skill. So again, locked into the Zorga. Don't love that, but it is what it is. And its effect is choose your Vanguard, and it gets auto Vanguard Circle when this unit attacks a Vanguard. Cost retire a rear guard, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and this unit gets power plus 10,000 till end of that battle, and you get that skill till end of turn. So another grade 3 order. This is a cool effect. I kind of see what they're going for here. It seems like the lore they're going with Zorga is that Zorga was enacting taboo rituals and processes to warp himself. And these orders giving the skill to Zorga kind of demonstrates that versus the old skills, which was just kind of spells that Zorga would cast to resurrect stuff and get various skills. So I think it's very thematic, so points there. As for how good I think this card is, this one doesn't interest me as much as the previous order, just because I see Zorga being way more aggressive, and I don't see retiring an opponent's rearguard being all that relevant if you're just winning the game. Like, I think you'd rather just play orders that bolster up your offense or give you some extra utility if you don't think you can win it that turn, and generally speaking, retire isn't one of them. My big concern with this new Zorga is that you're not really getting as much advantage to your hand as with previous iterations of Zorga could, and you're still committing cards from hand for like orders. Like, you need to have orders in hand. It's just not as much plussing. Zorga already has a pretty tiny hand, and I don't think just being able to not having to commit cards to board will really alleviate that at all. And it also seems like you're relying less on bouncing back cards, though hey, maybe there is a case where you go Zorga skill, resurrect a PG, bounce it with a Shadow Cloak you already have on board. That's still a viable option, which is nice. But yeah, I just think retire rearguard is probably the least useful. 10k power, that's not too bad, but yeah, I think I'd rather just bolster up the big crit swinging guys, because I always have the option to just swing Zorga into a rear guard if need be, or just poke Zorga maybe to get the opponent, see if the opponent will take it, to get them up to higher damage to swing Threat Lethal with the roaming Prison Dragon. So maybe, but this one's the one I'm least interested in overall. Now we still have a triple rare support card in Abomination of Impending Karma. So this one looks sick, just a mutant creature, just classic Zorga stuff, of course. So this one has 2 skills. The first one is when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, costs Energy Blast 4 and bind a normal order from drop. This unit gets 5,000 power until end of turn for each normal order with a different card name in your bind zone. So this thing can get massive. Seems a bit pricey, and I don't know if you really want to bind another order. Sure, it speeds up skills, which is nice, but at the same time, it's might take away from normal orders in your drop, which you want to be able to add back to hand. It's just managing that orders. It's such a different way to approach it. I'm not sure if we have the tools yet to effectively weave Zorga Nadir's skill and this skill in just yet. It'll probably take some experimenting to do. Then it has auto drop. At the beginning of your battle phase, if you have a Vanguard with Zorga in its card name and Divine skill, and you did Alchemagic this turn, you may call this card to rearguard circle. If you call this card and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets critical +1 until end of turn. This is a second roaming Prison Dragon. And of note, this does not say check if you have one of these on board. So if you don't have roaming Prison Dragons, but you have 2 of these, you can still call them out. So you're easily spawning out stuff, which is great. That just going from 4 roaming Prison Dragons to 8 roaming Prison Dragons just seems crazy to me. Now this one is a bit weaker than the roaming Prison Dragons because you can't, well actually it's placed on rearguard circle, so never mind. You would have to use a skill to make it big, which is a cool option to have. If you think you're going to win it that turn, this actually is better than roaming Prison Dragon. It is a bit slower than roaming Prison Dragon though, since your opponent has to be at grade 3 or greater, so I don't think this knocks it out of the deck at all. I think you really want to be running both. Have the roaming Prison Dragons for the early turns, and then now you can't reset the roaming Prison Dragons as effectively in this deck, it appears, unless you want to run the Tearful Malice, which might still be an option, but not having to worry about that, instead being able to go into these Impending Karmas is a cool balancing point, so I do really appreciate that. And I think this card will easily be maybe a 3 or 4 of. Again, I think roaming Prison Dragon still earns its slot because it can be called out a bit sooner, but this one is really cool. It also can spawn itself out just to get some intercepts. That's another nice application that roaming Prison Dragon doesn't have. So all in all, I just think this just bolsters the deck phenomenally, and I'm really happy with the support wave. Well, the Zorga reveals were the main ones I wanted to discuss because I was so excited for them. There's also a lot of other awesome news from this stream, this latest Tuesday stream, that I thought it'd be fun to just add on to the end of this. First off, Divine's Booster Pack 3 Transdimensional Jump was officially released, slated to release June 7th in Japan, so we'll probably get it a few months later in English. Interestingly enough though, no lyrical. And I don't know how I feel about that. It feels weird to have main boosters that have lyrical and then all of a sudden one that doesn't. I don't know. That doesn't feel great to me. But the contents of this look really cool, mainly because Shoujo Doji here. I am a big fan of Shoujo Doji. I picked it up when it came out in set 8 because it was very much an underdog deck that I saw a lot of experimentation with and a lot of potential in. And well, then it ended up winning the Worlds this year. So unfortunately, I don't have a video claiming that I thought it had potential. I was thinking about making it, so I guess it's my word that I was thinking that. Anyhow, I'm just happy to see a new Shoujo Doji, just to see more experimentation, new archetype as well, which is nice to see for the deck, and a couple new Rylines. We got a Stoikeo one, which is interesting. I thought that was Keter at first. Dragon Empire. I find it interesting that they're introducing more Rylines. I kind of get why. I mean, I think these two are manga, the manga ones, so that makes a lot of sense. And that one looks pretty cool. These two, though, I believe are unique to the set. We've got a Dark States one and a Keter Sanctuary one. Dark States one looks really cool, honestly. Keter one, I didn't expect that to be Keter. I'm really intrigued to see what it ends up doing. It's a very interesting style for that nation overall. So cool reveal to start with. Yeah, I just found here, yep, we have Dragon Empire, which is from the manga, and then the Stoikeo one as well, was it? Fiery Retribution Dragon Courtablaze and Dignitary Stordaja. Okay, that's going to be a hard one for me to pronounce. Pretty cool to see. I'm glad that they're printing more of these manga decks. Ah, these appear in the Cray Cross Epic. Okay, so these are not new units appear in Cray Cross Epic. Okay, so they are printing more of them. So these aren't just unique to the set just to fill out deck space. So it's Ritual Governor, Sacrifice Glass, and Poison Knight of Science Undercover Mordarian. I'm wondering if these, I thought these were Rylines. I don't know if they actually are. Maybe they just may be more unique support cards. We'll see. Still though, these artworks go really hard, which is awesome. Yeah, and here they reveal we're getting a new Shoujo Doji, an Archetype Cloud and Water Flowing Stealth Rogue Shoujo Doji, and Innocent in Paradise Archetype. Okay. Forced reading kanji has monster in it, so we might get a slightly different name in English, and we're also we're getting a new Regalis piece in Protection Twin Caster. So we'll see what this one does as well. But all in all, again, it's just artworks for now, and they look awesome. And I guess finally it's worth mentioning Chris Different Fight saying that the logo of Sorry Dimension Police, maybe we could be receiving more what are they called? Why I'm drawing a complete blank here that they always do. The special Rylines of the OG units. Wow, I'm drawing a real blank here on what they're called. Encounters, there we go. Maybe finally Dimension Police Encounter? That'd be awesome. Like, already the reels are looking pretty cool, but if we get some cool encounters, this will just take it over the edge for me. So we'll see in future reveals. Still a bit of ways to go though. And that's about it for this video. It's just my ramblings on the Tuesday reveal. Don't usually do this at all, but it's Zorga. I had to make an exception. So I want to hear from you all now. What are you most excited from this Tuesday reveals, and what do you think of the new Zorga ride line and support cards? If you've enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell so you're notified when I do upload more content. But with that being said though, look forward to more content coming out real soon.